I'm Kevin, joined by Lincoln. We are here to break down the Chicago Marathon. Lincoln, that's only a couple days away now.
Just Sunday. Today's the press conferences on a Friday, obviously, so it's getting awfully close.
Farah versus Rupp, obviously the big headline. And what we're going to do for this show is we're going to break down different scenarios, different percentages of likelihood of different things happening in the race. But before we jump into that, I just want your overall impressions. If you could go back in time, what was your emotional, mental state when you found out that Rupp and Farah would actually be racing in this marathon together?
Yeah, it's great, and I'm excited that's in Chicago. You kind of surprised that it wasn't going to be their first matchup in London, because you would think Farah wanted to be on the home soil, but he's really thrown himself into the fire, going to a place that Rupp's the defending champion and just going for it. They have nearly the same marathon PR. We know the advantage Farah has over him as far as the all-time record. It's very heavy in his favor.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, 21-1 all time. But the marathon's a different beast, and he's going basically onto Galen Rupp's home field. So it's going to be real interesting.
Okay, so first percentage, first scenario.
Yeah,
you'll give yours, I can give mine. So let's just start with that matchup there.
Mm-hmm.
What percent chance do you give Farah to beat Rupp and deny Rupp the chance at the back-to-back win?
Sure. So because of the psychological advantage that I feel like Farah has over Galen Rupp, given all the medals and all the times that he beat him, like I said, 21-1, it pushes that a little bit, it feels like to me, in his favor. But then it pushes right back, in my opinion, given that Galen is in Chicago, a place that he loves. You know, he's a Cubs fan, Bears fan, and all that. And he's also the defending champion, which is probably more important than the Cubs and Bears stuff. So I'm going to label it, as weak as it is, as a clean toss-up, 50-50. I think either one of them has I think they're right there. Again, their PRs are legitimately 2 seconds apart.
Right.
So I think it's a as weak as this seems, it's a toss-up.
Rupp more motivated because of what happened to the Cubs, do you think?
The disappointing loss. I know last year he was going to a playoff game after the after his run in Chicago, so it's possibly throughout the first pitch to kind of a couple months ago to highlight or to kind of pump up the Chicago Marathon. So maybe just the frustration, his baseball fandom is he needs something else, so he's got to go back to back.
I mean, they couldn't have hit any worse, I guess, so they might have have put Rupp
right.
on it.
Might as well have had Rupp sub in there. So
you have 50-50.
Yes.
Which I respect, and it's funny, the 21-1 thing, like if you had just asked me, like, hey, what do you think like their record is all time, I can't recall a time that Rupp beat Farah.
Yeah.
But like because of their personal bests and because of just the fact that Rupp's been so good for so long, that seems like a very misleading record, right? 21-1, but it is true. However, they're racing in the marathon.
Right.
Farah's never ran a marathon outside of London.
Right.
He's only run 2 total. I think Rupp has the edge, so I'm going to say Farah has a 39% chance of beating Rupp. I have Rupp as a slight favorite over the 2 just because of those 2 factors. Racing on a course he's already run before, overall experience in marathon, and actually I'll throw another one in there. Just the fact, I think the longer the distance goes, the better Rupp compares to Farah.
And you know, the 10,000, I know obviously the Mo has a considerable advantage beating him all the time in championship races, but you know, Galen does have a faster PR, and maybe you're right. Maybe the longer the distance, the better. However, I mean, Farah, we saw him as recently as, a month ago, you know, knock out a really fast half marathon, a time, I think, 59:30 something. So we'll see. Maybe this is the distance that truly Galen will dominate over Mo Farah. But I don't see it. I just feel like that psychological edge is there, and given that they both have reasons to like their chances, Farah with the psychological advantage and just, the physical advantage over the years, and then Galen just coming back to a course that he knows well and ran really well on last year. I like both of their chances.
Who had the ultimate hedge from Lincoln Stripe? Who had the better spring, do you think? Like, whose spring would you take? Because Rupp had a really up and down situation where it drops out of Boston, but then runs 2:06.07 in Prague. So it's a huge PR and wins it. The competition wasn't very stout, whereas Farah runs a PR as well, 2:06. Not a factor to win that race, but that was London. Who do you think had the better spring?
I think Galen, just by the fact that he won that race. Yes, the competition. A win is a win, and it's going to be a confidence booster. Also for him to like kind of avenge that weird Boston scenario and do it within what did he literally do it within 2 weeks?
Yeah.
I mean something absurd.
It was in May, right?
Right, the very beginning of May, and obviously April 20th is around the time Boston Marathon is. So it was a matter of weeks for him. Farah's was fine, but I'll give the advantage there to Rupp, given the fact that he won and also cut off how many, almost 3 minutes on his PR?
Yeah, he had a very misleading
of
PR.
course.
Okay, next question.
Yeah.
Percent chance Galen Rupp breaks the American record of 2:05:38.
Yeah, I'm going to go pretty high on this, 75% for myself here, 2:05:38. Is that's held by Khalid Kanuchi?
Correct.
From Chicago?
Yes.
Yes. So Galen Rupp will have to take about 40 seconds off of his PR, but they're reinserting pacers for the Chicago Marathon, which they haven't done for about 2 or 3 years now. The weather's going to be good. It's going to be in the 60s, similar to kind of what they had in Berlin when a certain guy named Kipchoge ran 2:01:39. So Rupp has said in conversations with the media that the 2:05:38 is his target. I think he gets it.
Actually, Canucci's was from London.
Oh, my mistake.
Yeah, but he does have a 2:05:56.
Okay.
From Chicago. So 2 sub 2:06s. So you're at 75%.
Yeah.
I'm a little lower.
Yeah.
33% is my prediction. I think the Rabbits are going to do a solid job. I think Rabbits in the era of Kipchoge, anytime they don't have to rabbit for Kipchoge, they're like, whew.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. I don't need to run 2:02 pace.
Go out in 63 or something.
Yeah. A little bit more moderate. And then I also think, because I think this is going to be a very competitive race, I think we could see some gamesmanship over the last 10 kilometers when they step off. And Prague's a fast course. It's not a perfect day. The weather's not supposed to be perfect in Chicago either, at least at last I checked. So dropping another 30 seconds is going to be pretty tough. So I have him at 33%. Let's go a step further, though, because 2:05:38 isn't the fastest time ever run by an American.
No.
Because that would be too simple, folks. The fastest time ever run by an American, Ryan Hall's Boston Performance, where he ran
noted power lifter, Ryan Hall.
Yeah, now lifts a ton of weight and is dominating a pump and run near you. Ryan Hall, 2:04:58. He ran in Boston. Doesn't count as an American record because Boston's not record eligible. So what's the chance he does that? What's the chance he just does another super PR?
Sure. So 2:04:58. I'm going to put it at a 10% chance for Galen Rupp. I don't want to, just knowing how much he's succeeded in his early career in the marathon, I don't want to put it totally out of reach and say that it's no possibility. But when you look at that 2:04:58, only 7 men have done that in Chicago history. There probably would have been more over the last couple of years if there would have been pacers. But 2:04 right now for Rupp, when you consider who's in the race, another 40 seconds away from even that American record, which is a time he still obviously hasn't hit. Very low chance. I'm going to say 10%. I just don't see it.
Yeah. 10 is still a possibility.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Well, I have lower. I have 5. I mean, because I'm lower on the American record, it would make sense that I lower on that. If people are watching on Facebook right now, feel free to send in your thoughts, your questions. I'll do my best to get to them.
There you go.
They pop up on my phone very, very quickly. Next one. So we talked about Rupp's chances at a time projection. Let's talk about Farah's. He comes in with a personal best that he just set in London when he ran 2:06:21. But the European record right now of Sondre Moen sits at 2:05:48. So what's the chances that Farah can run faster than 2:05:48?
I put it at 50%, and now I almost think
another 50.
Another bold take. I think there's a very good chance he does it. I think it's once again a very much a toss-up that he can do that. But again, he's run 2:06:21, and to go from that in a race where now he's running a race that doesn't have Eliud Kipchoge. And it's his 3rd marathon, so he should be a little bit more comfortable. I mean, remember the situations he ran in marathon. He had 2014, his debut, which was still in the middle of his track reign. It was you could almost say it was for fun. I mean, and then this last one in 2018 in London was kind of his official move to the marathon. Now he should be a little bit more comfortable. He knows that the distance is going to suit him. I think he gets it. And I think it's going to be a close race between Galen, Karui, and Mo coming down to it. And I think if I'm going to give 75% shot that Rupp breaks the American record, and I think Farah is right at that level, then I gotta go at least 50% to think that he's going to get that, go under the 205.48.
Everything you're saying makes sense, and now that I look at this, I'm really like underselling the fast time. I only have it at 30% because I think the win is going to be in the low 206s, which sounds incredibly slow, like I said, in the era of Kipchoge, but I just, for some reason, I think that the times aren't going to cooperate. I think the race will be fantastic. The time's not as quick. We've got a couple questions I want to get to. Jason wants to know, what are his chances of winning? I'll put him at 1, but PR?
Jason.
Just Jason on Facebook.
Just Jason. He wants to know what his chances are winning. Well, we have to find out if he's in the elite race, but you never know. Could a Boston type of a system roll in to where it's you don't even know where you're at? I mean, possibly, Jason.
And we got one from Derek who wants to know underdogs in both races. Underdogs in men's and women's real quick.
I mean, we have the king underdog, even coming after his Boston win, Yuki
Right.
Kawuchi in there. Lover of hamburgers, lover of panda suits, and lover of inclement weather, which he may not get.
Right.
He's got to be the the king underdog. I mean, you also have a guy like Abel Karui who's won this race before. Right. He's obviously more of a legitimate shot of winning than Kawuchi. I hate to say that, but Karui would be a good name, just that he's had success on this course. He's not at the level of Farah, of Jeffrey Karui, or Galen Rupp, and he was in this race last year, and he was runner-up. So I'd say he's like the main underdog that I would look at.
I'll give you one name on the men's race I'm watching. It's weird to say he's an underdog because he has a faster personal best than Farah and Rupp, who we led with. But this Kenneth Kipkemoy has run 205.44, and he did that in Rotterdam this spring. He hadn't run a marathon before 2013. So he's experienced runner, but not necessarily an experienced marathoner, so potential to go even faster.
This is such an interesting, sorry to cut you off, this is such an interesting field because we have a number of guys, Ethiopians, that have run crazy fast in Dubai. Right. That doesn't always translate to success in other marathons. You see it seems like a lot of Ethiopians that have their ridiculously fast PRs and then they struggle in other, what do we want to say, more technical courses. Yeah. But you look at a guy that's had a ton of success in the cross-country course, half marathon. Baden Kuroki also has been a great 10,000-meter runner. I don't expect him to contend for the win, but on a really good day, he's not somebody you can ignore, especially with that speed. And then there's another guy up there that's basically run fast from 800 all the way up to 26.2 in Augustine Choge.
Yeah, Augustine Choge, people are talking a lot about just because his personal bests are crazy, and there's a little bit of like a Kipchoge track success to marathon success with him, although he's not as good at the track as Kipchoge was, and there's no reason to believe he'd be as good at the marathon as Kipchoge is, but that he's just one of those athletes that jumps out at you when you look at the start list and then you look at the PR and like, man, if you translate even a portion of that speed. We got a question asking about what Gwen Jorgensen's chances are. We'll get to that one when we go down into the women's preview. Let's continue on here with percent chance that someone besides Rupp or Farah wins the race. Percent chance that someone besides Rupp or Farah wins the race.
I'm going to go to, with nothing else but my security blanket, I'm going to go to my tried and true 50%.
Clickbait.
Yeah. Which is Jeffrey Karui. He won Boston in 2017 over Rupp. Sure, that may have been a different Galen Rupp a couple marathons ago. Now Galen has a major marathon victory and a 206 PR, but Karui also won the World Championship marathon. He may have that psychological advantage over Galen Rupp, and I'm going to give him a clean 50% chance to win. Other than that, I don't see it. But Karui would be the guy to watch for me.
I have 45% that someone else, because I think either Rupp, the chance of both Rupp and Farah having an off day is pretty low. However, on the other side of this, you're right. This field is fascinating, and this field is deep, and this field is able to adapt to whatever type of race happens. Like if there is really bad weather and it slows down, you have people who are strong in championships with the two Karuis, Jeffrey and Abel. If it's just a flat out from the gun, the rabbits go crazy, and they go through in 61:30, you have these two guys from Ethiopia, Geremu and Legesse, who have run really fast in Dubai. This is obviously a much harder course than Dubai because every course is a harder course than Dubai. But there's like a lot of different ways that people can succeed in this course. And obviously, if the weather goes to crap and it's a monsoon, we call in the righty, Yuki, to go in there and clean it up. So 50-50 just because you have to respect what Farah and Rupp are doing, and you know that they're coming in entirely prepared for this race.
Yeah. And
so I got 45%.
Okay. Next one, both Mo Farah and Galen Rupp finish in the top 3. I think to me, that feels like a solid guarantee. I know the names and I know the PRs, but I'm just talking, we're in Chicago where Galen Rupp isn't going to finish outside the top 3 after winning last year. And Mo Farah wouldn't be here if he didn't think he had a very, very good shot to win. No Eliud Kipchoge. He's got to like his fitness. He's been doing his usual social media posts, hyping up his fitness in wherever he's training in East Africa at altitude. He's also been in Flagstaff. That doesn't really matter. I'm going to give it a 99.
Lincoln likes it because he's in different places.
Yeah, he moves around. He's able to travel. 99% shot. Those guys are finishing in the top 3. I know Dixon Chumba, 2018 Tokyo champ. Karui, Boston champ, world champion champ. But I think it's an almost a lock that those guys finish in the top 3.
I put 65% just because it's a marathon, so I'm never more than 65% that anything will happen. But all indications point to them being able to finish in the top 3. But you're right. There's just so many people there, so many possibilities. You mentioned Kuroki as sort of a wild card because he's not that experienced in marathon. Throw him in there with Augustine Choge. I mean, if one of those guys really pans out as like, oh, this guy is not necessarily like a threat to win the race, but like a solid, oh, this is a 205 person going forward, this is a low 206 person going forward, then you have another person that Farah and Rupp have to contend with. So I got 65% that they both finish in the top 3.
That's fair.
What about the possibility that someone breaks the course record? Now, before you answer, course record is very fast.
It's very fast.
Dennis Cometto, 203.45. He did that before he ran his 202.57.
2013.
Yeah. What do you think? 203.45.
So obviously we have no one in the field that's run that fast. We do have a couple Ethiopians, Garemu and Legesse, who have run low 204s, specifically Garemu, who's literally run 204 flat from Dubai. This is a tougher course than Dubai. Probably, who knows if they'll have as good of pacing as they have in Dubai, where it's literally almost like a motorcade that allows them.
turns.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a straightaway. I put it at 5%. I should have looked up exactly how many people have run below 203.45, but it's got to be less than 7 or 8. I mean, it's
203.45.
Yeah.
Well, that would be the 13th best.
Okay.
That's the 13th best market of all time, but there's a lot of repeats in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Kip
So just a
Sangs.
handful of people in history have run under that 203.45, and it does not appear that any country outside of Kenya has ever run that fast. We don't have
Bekele.
Yeah. Okay. Bekele's run that fast. There's other than Karui, who, yes, he's shown himself to be a good marathoner. He hasn't shown himself yet to be somebody who's capable of a 203 type time. I just don't see it. I'm going to give it a 5% chance.
I got a 2% chance, even lower. What would your shock level be if you woke up, or not woke up on Sunday morning, because you're going to watch this race live.
Yeah.
But if Rupp or Farah ran like 203.30.
It would be akin to me. It'd be similar to Kipchoge's Boston his Berlin marathon time. They're not similar as far as time, but the shock level would be similar, I think, to the world record. 203 would be surprising for those guys, just based on how they would have to skip the 205s and the 204s to do that. So I would be floored.
It's funny that the level of shock would be the same, and they're running 2 minutes slower.
Right. I mean, that's
Kipchoge just goes to show you.
Yeah. I mean, the Kipchoge has now inserted himself into every conversation about the marathon.
He should be.
Yeah.
It's like Rudisha with the 800.
Yeah.
He had to preface it with, well, Rudisha is running or not running. Let's jump over to the women's race here. What % chance do you give an American woman, Lincoln, of finishing in the top 5?
So we look at the entries, and the top 5 spots are basically Ethiopian and Kenyans as far as PRs go. What's the chances all of them have a good day? That seems pretty low. So I'm comfortable saying, about 20%, just because the American entries, when we lost Jordan Hasay and we lost
Amy Craig.
Sorry, thank you there. That definitely took that a big hit. I would have been comfortable saying I don't know, 80% previously, given Hasay's success in Chicago, and the same goes for Craig and how good she's been in the marathon. You lose those people, then you have people like Laura Thweatt and Gwen Jorgensen. I'm going to give it a 20%, which I think is decently high because the gap, I feel like, between them and the East Africans is pretty far, but there's a decent chance that not all those people have great days. So.
And for that exact reason, that's why I think you're underselling it.
Okay.
Right? I mean, and I'm with you. It would have been close to 80% with Hasay and Craig in there. When they dropped out, like the percentage just dwindled and dwindled. So now you have Thweatt and Jorgensen, the big two here. But yeah, you look at who's run faster. Rosa Dereje, 219. Kiplagat, 219. Berhane Dababa, for those who keeping track of the Dababas, which you always should. 219. And then Bridget Kosgei, who is my pick to win this race, second in London this past year in a really competitive effort. And then Demise of Ethiopia. And then it kind of just jumps to Thweatt. So the chance of all of them panning out, I think, is pretty low.
And the one reason why I would say 20% is all of those women have run well recently. Sometimes you have people that have their marathon PRs from 2014, and then it's like, okay, that's a little bit of fool's gold. But we have people that have won Tokyo, finished high up in London, won Dubai there. They've all run well recently. But you for me and for you, obviously, the chance there, even with that 4.5 minute gap between Thweatt and those East Africans, not everyone's going to run well there. So
How soon you forget the Boston Marathon where America won 2 in the women's race.
Yes.
4 of the top 5? 3 of the top 5?
Yeah.
And
I don't want to stir the pot here, but we can, some of that in relation to other great day, but you can't really translate Boston to other marathons now. Yeah. I knew you knew that.
A joke.
Yeah. Okay.
Here we go. Let's talk Gwen Jorgensen more now, though. Percent chance she breaks 2 hours and 30 minutes. This is her first marathon since fully devoting herself to the distance. Of course, she ran 2:41 in New York City back in 2016, but that was on a fairly low mileage setup, and that was just after competing in triathlons. Now she's all the way committed to running. What chance do you give her of breaking 2:30?
Yeah, that's going to be a big jump for her. Obviously, she is a different runner from that 2:41. She's run times, she's run a 70-minute half recently, which would give indication that she's got a 2:30 in her if you kind of translate those to each other. But I'm going to say 25%. It's still going to take a really strong race, in my opinion, for her to do that. And I'm just leaning on the side of caution. I think it's more likely that she runs 2:32, 2:31. So
when in doubt, go with the conversion tables. They're right at 2:30, or just a little bit under. If you take her 10,000 meter PR, that 31:55 that she ran at Stanford, that converts pretty well too. Not to anything like a 2:25, but it puts her right there. I think Schumacher will have her prepped and ready to go. She has the best training partners in the world. I don't really think anybody else can say that, and the best resources. And I think the longer the distance, the better she'll be. Like if she's knocking out those 10,000 meter times, I think the longer she goes, the more
that's a great
advantageous
point.
to her.
We should preface that by saying Gwen Jorgensen, Olympic triathlon champion, of course. So,
well, yes, I assume people know if they're following along.
So you're right. No, that's an element I didn't necessarily consider, is that we haven't seen her run a marathon in this new version of Gwen Jorgensen. So I may be a little clouded by the fact that I think she had a few disappointing races mixed in, like at USA's, but this may be truly her bread and butter. And I still think outside 2:30, I won't be shocked if she runs anything below 2:27. I'll be floored.
Yeah, exactly. So I put it right at 50%. A Lincoln Shrike special there for you at home. Neil says 20. Excuse me, I can't read this. 25% for Jorgensen.
I'll go for 100. Well, the race hasn't happened yet, so it's hard to go for 100. But
25% for Gwen Jorgensen for Neil. But I'll say right at 50-50. I think you look at that USA's race where she finished 7th in the 10,000, but none of this has been about competing in the 10,000. All this has been about trying to make the Olympic team, and in her mind, her opinion, competing for a gold medal.
Yeah.
So I think if she gets under 2:30 here, she's putting herself at least in that conversation to make the team for 2020. Now, the U.S. women's team is going to be just incredibly tough.
Yeah, if it stays healthy, if
yeah.
Shalane's still there, I mean.
Yeah, and a lot of it depends on who's going to be there. So it's too early for that conversation, but I think this will put her in that right direction if she goes under 2:30. I think she'll sneak just under 2:30.
Really?
I think Thweet will finish ahead of her, though, and I think Thweet will be the one who finishes in the top 5.
Yeah, oh, definitely, yeah.
Do you have a pick for the women's race overall?
I haven't spent a ton of time looking at it, but you got to like Kip Liggott coming back third, going for possibly a second title, as she won in 16. Just coming in fresh. I think she has the experience, and I don't think it's going to be anything like last year's race, which was just an absolute like from the gun, pedal to the floor, without Tierney Dababa, without Hissei going after it as well, and there was somebody else in there. I forget, but I think it's going to be a little bit more of a tactical race, even with the pacers, and I like Kip Liggott in that realm. So, and you mentioned you were going to pick Kosgei.
Yeah, I like Bridget Kosgei. I like the fact, like I said, she hung in, ran really smart in London and the second Chicago last year. So 2 runner-up finishes there. We got a comment on Facebook says, "Is Gwen Jorgensen the GOAT if she wins?" Yes.
As far as triathletes doing the marathon, yeah, I'd say she's the GOAT, and that would surpass the Kipchoge meter of shock level, I think. So
this is a tough field. This is a tough women's field. It doesn't have as many storylines as the men this time.
Yeah,
Boston kind of got flipped on its head. Boston to me was sort of like all about the women leading in. This one, the men have the different matchups and battles that are very, very intriguing. Last prediction here. Percent chance that Yuki Kawichi runs another marathon on Monday.
So he's going to finish, I think he'll run 2:11 on Sunday, something, maybe even 2:10, run his usual solid race, gritting it all the way to the finish line, probably a top 10 finish there. There's only one marathon in the United States on Monday, the day after the Chicago Marathon.
Was a marathon the day.
So I did do some research into this. It's an Appalachian Trail Marathon in Virginia. So I'm going to put it at 2% chance because maybe I don't know if it's a little bit too late to enter, but he's been known to love a good marathon after a marathon. I think
they'll give a waiver.
Yeah, you think?
If you're running the Virginia Appalachian Trail Marathon, you have to offer Yuki Kawichi.
Yeah,
that would be my first thing. If I ran a marathon or if I put on a marathon in the United States in the week before or the week after a major marathon that I knew Yuki Kawichi was running in, I would do an all-out full court press to try to get him at my race because what's this marathon number 8 of the year? 9?
Yeah, it's a
lot.
It seems like, you think on its face, it's his first race since Boston, but it's not. It's not even close.
No, not at all. Yeah, the first time we get to see him. Nope. Cameron wants to know any American records being broken in the race.
Well, we did highlight that earlier. Definitely a good chance for Rupp, the official 2:05:38.
Lincoln's got it at 75%.
75%.
So if you believe Lincoln, how much can you believe
the
guy with the backwards hat?
I've been known to make a couple prediction mistakes previously in the year where I said there would be no sub-13 5Ks. That went away with 8 in one race. And then I said that no world record for Eliud Kipchoge, who went on to break it by 77 seconds. So I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic of records being broken this time. Hopefully I didn't just throw the jinx on Rupp.
Yeah.
And in that regard. But I think coming back after last year, it will require him to run over 3 minutes faster, but there's going to be pacers. And that's one thing, just to jump on that, the pacing situation to me is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Because when we look at Berlin, everyone had their own specific pacers, but this feels like a race that's going to be more of a race, even with the pacers. How do you think? Is everyone going to have their kind of design team? How do you think it's going to play out?
Well, that's very interesting, and I'm sort of anti-rabbit as principal, and this is a perfect example. You don't need them this year. With this many people in it, it'd be way more interesting if you didn't have it. Now, that being said, that technical meeting on Saturday night, I think it's going to be very interesting because there's not, in the men's race, there's not an alpha dog. There's not a Kipchoge that's going to go in and say, here's the pace that I'm running.
Yeah.
You figure out the rest of it. There's a lot of people who I think are going to be competing to try to dictate what the pace is going to be. Is it 61:30? Is it 62:30? Is it 62?
Wow.
Is it 63? And who gets to make the decision, right? Who gets to make that call? Is it Rupp because he's the defending champion? Is it Mo Farah because he comes in with all the global gold medals? Is it Abel Karui? Is it Jeffrey Karui? Abel Karui's won there before, defending world champion Jeffrey Karui. It's like the guys who've run the fastest personal best. I don't know. I think what Farah has shown though in running London is his ability to lay off the pace early on and run his own race. Rupp, other than Prague, that was his first and only paced effort, right? He's only run championship-style races. So for him, this is going to be a little bit of a different tact. Now, in his track career, he was really good at being just metronomic, right, and just like clicking off the lap. So to answer your question, I don't know, but I think that's going to go. If we knew that information, I think that would shape the predictions even more.
And I'm going to be interested to see how they interact post-race. Obviously, I don't think they're going to have a lot of contact just because they're competitors. And I'm not saying they're sworn enemies now that they're not in the same training group at all, but just how they react. They're such, tough competitors. It's just the image of, I'm just going to be curious what the image is, especially if they go 1-2 either way.
Yeah.
How similar is the image going to be from the 2012 10,000 meter final where they were celebrating together versus now? I think it's going to be quite the stark difference. So it'll be interesting to watch that.
Neil wanted to know percent chance that the people with the 4% shoes run 4% faster. That'll be another thing to watch. Who's wearing the shoes?
Well, I think Mo and Galen will probably be wearing the shoes. And
a lot of people are wearing the shoes.
Maybe didn't Kipchoge had another prototype that he wore in Berlin? I think it's a pretty safe call that the Nike sponsored athletes will be wearing that.
No, but
shoe.
are they going to run 4% faster?
Well, what's the baseline from their PRs?
Yeah, from the PR, because then we'd see something crazy.
Yeah, I think 4% is faster is simple math is somewhere in the 202s, right? I mean, I would think that that's pretty close to or faster than that. So I don't think they're going to run 4% faster than their PRs, but time will tell.
All right, another one here before we close out from Cranston. Galen Rupp says he's good friends with Eliud Kipchoge. If you ask both of them, what do you think each would say was the most fun time they spent together?
That they've spent hanging out together?
Yeah.
I imagine that maybe he's asked Kipchoge for spiritual life advice. Maybe he sees Kipchoge as a mentor of his, but I don't know. Galen has one true mentor, and it's his mentor. It's his coach, Alberto Salazar. So,
you don't think he took him to a Cubs
maybe
game
they talk about their kids. That's what most adults do who are kind of loosely acquaintances and under the same pursuit. I think they both have multiple kids, so maybe it's talking about that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You don't think he took him to like a Cubs game or something like that?
Well, I just don't. How big is American baseball in Kenya?
That's probably not very big.
For next time.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. You can watch, if you're in UK, Northern Ireland, you can check out the race live on the site. We also have previews going up, and we'll have press conference interviews that go up on the site on Friday.
That's today.
Yeah, that's today, later on today. And then, obviously, we'll be back to recap it. There'll be live updates throughout the race. And then Lincoln will write the recap, and then we'll probably chat more about it next week, because I don't see any way that it's not something that we end up talking a lot about, regardless of what the outcome is. There's going to be a lot to take away from it.
No, it's going to be huge news all into next week. So excited to see how it unfolds.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon. Wave to the camera, Lincoln.